April 17th, 2025. Class title today, Whom Do You Seek? And the foundation scripture is John 18, verses 1 through 12. And this just tells the entire story that I'm going to move into today. Of whom do you seek? Starting at verse 1. Jesus said these things and went out with his disciples across the brook, Cedron, to a place where there was a garden where he and his disciples entered. Judas, the traitor, also knew that place, for Jesus and his disciples frequently gathered there. It's kind of amazing that the word Judah means praise. In the King James it says Judas, Judas, but it's Judah. In fact, in Aramaic it's Juda, and it's called Judah. And so Judah therefore took a company of soldiers and also guards from the high priest and the Pharisees, and he came there with torches and lamps and weapons. Jesus, knowing everything that was to happen, went out and said to them, Whom do you want? Who are you looking for? Who do you see? Jesus already knew what was to happen. Isn't that amazing? So then they said to him, Jesus the Nazarene. Jesus said to them, I am he. Judas the traitor was also standing with them. When Jesus said to them, I am he, they drew back and fell to the ground. In another translation, he says, I am the living God. If then you want me, let these men go away. That the word, this is really important, that the word which he said might be fulfilled. Of those whom thou gavest me, I have lost not even one. But Simon Peter had a sword, and he drew it and struck the high priest's servant and cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. And Jesus said to Peter, Put the sword into the sheath. Shall I not drink the cup which my Father has given me? Peter meaning faith, rock. Then the soldiers and the captains and the Jewish guards seized Jesus and bound him. Wow. You see how many people they got out there? They got soldiers, they got the captains, they got all these big time people out there. And Jesus said, who are you looking for? And they said, we're looking for Jesus the Nazarene. Jesus of Nazareth. Here I am. And they stepped back and fall and hit the ground. Now, the significance of that is very, very important. Because, let's go to Luke 12. Luke 12, he says what? Take no thought what you are to eat, what you are to drink, how you ought to be clothed. God feeds the birds. God does what? Causes the flowers. They don't spin and they don't toil. Solomon wasn't even dressed like one of these. The birds, they're not looking for food. They just go where they're led. God feeds them. And then he goes, aren't you worth more than they? Then he says, but take no thought for your life. Don't even think about it. All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Why? They take thought for their life. How I'm going to do this? How I'm going to do that? And he says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these other things will be added unto you. Jesus is not saying to you, trust God and go out here and do the best you can. That is not what he's saying. He's saying there's something that is within you called the kingdom, which is called the presence of God, which is, kingdom means the counsel. And we've had this over and over again. And finally, it is registering very strongly in my consciousness that, see, the kingdom is the word, and the word becomes flesh. If you do not get the kingdom, then you don't get the word that becomes flesh. The word becomes that which appears as that which is added unto you. You always have to have that. So, let's go back to who you looking for. I'm looking for Michael Orr of Upper Marlboro. I'm he. Pow. What came looking for me? Well, we jokingly said last week, if you don't give me the deed to your ranch, I'm going to throw you on the railroad track. What came looking for me? You owe this much tax. What came looking for me? How you going to pay these bills? What came looking for me? You better watch out around here. You better wear a mask. You might get COVID. What came looking for me? Sickness, disease, lack, limitation, fear, doubt, unbelief, distrust. All those things are looking for me. Let me ask you something. When I said, oh, that's me, I am he, did those things fall down? Did they step back and fall down? Well, if they did, I must have picked them back up. I helped them up. I helped all my problems back up. Why? Because I started thinking about them again. I know Jesus said this, but man, come on, man. A man got to do what a man got to do. I got to get out here and earn my keep by the sweat of my brow. No, you don't. Yes, I do. I know more than you, God. Dear the Lord, it's my good pleasure to give you the kingdom. It's your good pleasure to give me the kingdom that's already in you. What am I? I'm a man with a consciousness that if I open the door and let this presence do its thing, I think y'all get the rest of the answer to that. It's going to add itself unto me, the things that are necessary. But I have to have conviction. It's funny, I use that term because when they asked Jesus, and Jesus said, oh, y'all, you're looking for a sign. You're an evil generation. You're looking for a sign. A sign. Well, no sign shall be given except the sign of Jonah. And just as Jonah was in the belly of the big fish for 3 days and 3 nights and was resurrected, so shall the Son of Man fall into the ground, die, and be resurrected on the 3rd day. Michael, are you ready to eat from the cup that God has given you to eat from? Yeah, I can talk a big talk and talk a big talk, but how about when it comes to walking the walk? Will you go into, how am I going into the ground? I ain't going to think about my problems no more. I ain't going to think about none of this kind of stuff. I'm not going to do it. Oh yeah, that sounds good. But what happens when they come for you? What's the name of that song? What you going to do when they come for you? What are you going to do? I'm going to say I am he, and I'm going to stand strong in this situation, and I'm going to watch y'all fall on the ground. I'm going to watch all of these bad boys the kings and the captains and the lieutenants and all these big time, you know what? They're coming for me. I'm going to stand strong. That sounds good. But the day comes where you do have to stand strong. So what is it? It's his good pleasure to give me the kingdom. Now let's go back to, this is the foundation of my entire ministry. This is what I have come to know. The foundation of my ministry is, I quote it every week, Ecclesiastes chapter 3, 14 and 15. What God does is done forever. Nothing can be added to it, nothing taken away. That which is to be has already been, and that which has been is right now. Now we know that, and that's the way I'm going to hang. That's how it's going to be. It's already worked out. In fact, one time when I was talking with Alice, or either something on Facebook or what have you, and I said it's rigged. It's already rigged. God already got the thing worked out. But my problem is I'm out here trying to work out what has already worked out. Jamal always says, how you going to make sense out of something that does not make any sense? It does not make sense for me to try to work out what's already worked out. But that's the sin that does so easily befall us. See, we fall as a result of trying to work out our situation as opposed to, I am he. Who you looking for? I am he. And if I'm convinced that I am he, then I end up, what? The playing out of the conviction. Dr. Joseph Murphy said the name Jonah means conviction. And I looked up Jonah last night, and the Aramaic term and in the Hebrew is, you know what Jonah means? Dove. D-O-V-E. Not the soap. Dove. The same thing, the sign of Jonah. What's the sign of Jonah? What's another sign of Jonah? When Jesus got baptized, the dove came down and the word became flesh. Wow. Jonah means dove. So in other words, if I fall into the ground and die in my belief, in other words, let my belief go away, then in 3 days, on the third day, I'm raised up and I understand. And then I get the result. The result is peace. The result is a revelation. The result is a word that is given to me that I can be the peace that passes all understanding. And it keeps me. It guides me. Psalms 32, I have already made you to understand. I've led you in the way that you ought to take, and I will follow you with my eye. That's the Aramaic version of that. Isaiah 65 and 24, these are foundational points of my ministry. I serve based on understanding that before they call, I have answered. While they're speaking, I will hear. We know them well that if God hears us, I think that's 1 John 5 and 14, I think. If we know we pray according to his will, he hears us. And if he hears us, we have the petitions that are desired of him. How in the world do I pray according to his will? How do I do that? It's the meditation. It's the practice of the presence of God that causes this peace, this dove. Every time you meditate, the dove comes down. You're being baptized, totally immersed into God, and the dove comes down. You've opened the door, and the presence of God and the Christ comes in and sups with you. That means you are sustained. You have a confidence. You have Jonah. You have a conviction. You've given up your way of trying to do something to allow this thing to have its way. Have thine own way, Lord. We used to sing that in old school, long time ago. That's it. Now, meditation. What am I doing? I am saying, Lord, here I am. Here, let me give you a good one. When you wake up in the morning, I did it this morning. I do it 3 and 4 times a day. When you wake up this morning and your mind goes to God is spirit, and that spirit is animating consciousness of of my being. It is the Spirit of God that permeates my soul, mind, and body and supplies me with its creations. What? Yeah, the first thing I'm thinking about is not how I'm going to do anything. The first thing I'm thinking about is God is spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. That means I and the Father are one, or either I and the Father are in one accord. And that spirit is the animating consciousness of my being. God is all activity. It is the Spirit of God that permeates my soul, my mind, and my body. And it supplies me with its creations. Well, if we look at Genesis 1, what are God's creations? Everything. There's nothing missing. David came into that understanding and said, the Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing at all. I have no need. I have no want. I am, who you looking for? I am he. Okay. Boom, all the problems fall down. But that's not what we're looking at if we're looking at how I'm going to do something. Michael certainly wasn't. Now, maybe you had this, but I was looking at how I'm going to pay the mortgage. They took away, who came, Social Security bill, they came and they took away 80% of the Social Security that was coming into this house. Who'd you come for? We're looking for Michael Orr. I am he. They fell to the ground. Michael Orr said, oh no, let me help you out. Let's try to work this out. Let's try to fix this. How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? That's the whole thing. Don't even don't take no thought about what you ought to do. Seek this right here. God is the permeating presence that totally overtakes my mind, my soul, and my body. I'm thinking that. And as long as I'm thinking that, something is starting to swirl within me. I'm starting to feel a little warm vibe, a presence. And that spirit is the animating consciousness of my being. And it permeates my soul, my mind, and my body and supplies me with its creations. What are the creations? Food, drink, clothing, housing, transportation, services, everything I am supposed to do. The Father within doeth the works, not me. The Father within, the consciousness of the presence of God, that's doing the work. So, as I am doing this meditation, I am feeling this presence. As I am feeling this presence, I come to an understanding that, this is not my job, this is God's job. God's got to do this. And then it dawned on me, so why am I trying to get God to do something? Why am I trying to get God to work out some of my situations when they're already worked out? But how come I don't feel like they're worked out? Because I don't do the meditations. I get up and I try to walk through the day hoping and praying that things will work out. I don't even know what things yet. Oh, you know what things. But what thing? What is it that I know? What are the things that I'm hoping that'll work? Well, your mind is back on, your mortgage was due on a certain day and they give you so many days. So you come up with enough by way of, you take out of your 401k plan to help you along the way you're subsidizing your income with your savings. Does that make sense? I'm going in my savings to subsidize my income, which is tired. My man said dead and stinking. Because I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm not looking at the presence of God. I'm saying the words. I'm saying what it says. God is permeating my mind, my soul, and my body. God is the animating presence of my being. God supplies me with his creations. But when the rubber meets the road, what am I doing? I got to figure out. That term, I have come to the point where I realize I hate that term. People saying, I got to figure out. Why do I have to figure out anything? It's already worked out. That's something nice to say, but it's got to be felt. And felt means Jonah, a conviction. That means you feel the peace. The dove sits on you, and once it sits on you, you got to stay there. How long you got to stay? Well, you got to stay at least 3 days. At least 3 days, you got to stay there. If you stay 3 days, then it's just going to do what? You'll start walking in it. You'll start feeling like it. You'll start, oh, wow. You know, how long did it take you to learn math? You had to stay with that principle until it started to click as a reality in you. And then you start, 2 times 2 is 4. 2 plus 2 is 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. What am I doing? I'm applying the principle. In the Greek, it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Well, the Greek word for principle is principia, beginning. The Greek word for the beginning is principia, which is principle. So in other words, I have to live my life on a principle. What principle is that? Take no thought for your life. Take no thought at all for how you're going to make it. I used to think, well, that's nice. This is good to say. I'm saying all of the stuff that's written in the Bible, and surely God has to be pleased with my attitude about this. No, God is pleased with faith. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. Well, then you look over there, and it says, well, to each man has been given the measure of faith. Jesus says, well, fear not, I've overcome the world. How? Well, this is the victory that overcomes the world, our faith. So if I already have the faith, I already have the Spirit. All is Spirit. To him that has it shall be given. So everything is Spirit. I don't care what it is, it's Spirit. Oh, if it's not Spirit and it came looking for me, it fell down on the ground because it didn't have the power to stand. God is Spirit. I am Spirit. The words I speak are Spirit. Okay, so in Genesis 1, the Spirit did what? Moved over the face of the waters, and God said, let there be. Okay, now, all things were made by him. Remember that. By who? By Spirit. By God. By the Christ. All things were made by him. By the word. A thing is an outpicturing of the word, which is the presence of God, contemplated to the point that it appears. It appears in 2 places. I talked about this. The first place that this thing appears is the third eye, the pineal gland. There's an image formed there. You see, everything is already in you. The reason you know it's in you is you are consciously aware of it. You are aware of, I think I need to go get me a new pair of shoes. You may not know what kind of shoes that you're going to get, but you know you're going to get a new pair of shoes. I mean, didn't it happen to me a couple of weeks back? I'm getting ready to, I got to get me some new running shoes because I'm tearing these up. And my neighbor comes over and says, do you want these? What size are they? 12. Well, I said, yeah, that's what I wear. Okay. Running on clouds. I ran in them yesterday. So, the pineal, the third eye, is sitting there. It goes in there, boom, and it flashes. The dove sets, you at peace, and it casts an image, a shadow. It's going to show up if you wait. Don't wait on it to show up. Just wait on the presence and keep feeling and walking in that presence day in and day out. As I said, at least for 3 days. Now, in John 6, verse 63, he says, the flesh profits nothing. It is the spirit that quickeneth. Quickeneth there means that gives life. And then it says, the words I speak, they are spirit and they are life. Now, back a few years ago, we had all these people talking about just speak the word and it appears. Speak the word. How many people were out there making affirmations, denials, speaking the word, confessing these wonderful things? I am rich. I am famous. I am, Then I thought about it. I said, whoa. Those people were sinning. They were making mistakes. They were saying stuff that they had no conviction about. They were saying stuff that they did not believe. I look at all of the people who played in all these movies, people who, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to grow up and be this, and I'm going to be all this wonderful actor. I'm going to be a scientist. I'm going to get into that community only to have it gone away. I know so many singers that we don't even think about nowadays. So many people that wrote so many books, that worked in so many movies and all. Where are they now? Nobody talks about it. Nobody brings them up. I think about that and I go, wow. But then again, every now and then there's one that just does not go away. And people are constantly bringing up, you would never forget Harriet Tubman. I can't. I cannot. That's just how it is. This is a person who fell into the ground and died and rose on the third day and led people to freedom, just like Jesus did. She wasn't trying to say, I'm going to lead all these people to freedom, and then they're going to make a monument in my honor. She never did that. Look at how many people did not do that. But look at how many people said, what was it? The two disciples that were there when Jesus was he on the Mount of Transfiguration? They said, you know what? Let's make a stone for you, and let's make a monument for this other person. I remember that story in the Bible. I might not be clearly on it, but he was like, yeah, let's make one for you. And Jesus was like, dude, what are you talking about? But it says the fame of Jesus went out throughout the Holy Land. Well, what made the fame of Jesus go throughout the Holy Land? The presence of God. He was totally aware of the presence of God all the time. So therefore, the words he spoke are spirit and life. Why? Because after his meditations, and remember, we talking about a guy who would go out into the garden, meditate all night long. A guy who, from the time he was 12 years old, mesmerizing the people around the table at him, the preachers and the bishops and priests and his mama and daddy. And remember, one day, this is the guy that said, your mom and your brother are outside. And what did he say? Who is my mother and who is my brother except those who hear and do the will of my Father? And what is God's will? It's just simple. It's so simple. Everybody has the same access, and God's will is the same for everybody. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. Open up your consciousness, open the door, and I will come in. I will fulfill righteousness. I will do through you the wonderful thing that needs to be done. You caught wind of something. Think about it. I'm not saying it's wrong to say, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a professor. I want to go out here and teach and preach, or I want to go out here and be a great builder. that inspiration comes as an idea, as a dream. But then what happens is we take off and we start going after trying to figure out how to get it done. And the moment we step into it and say, okay, here it is, I see how I can get this done, boom, and then it goes, this thing comes, whom seek ye? Why? The debts come at you. The how you going to do this comes at you. All these crazy things come at you to say, how you going to do this? How you going to do this? Just chatter, chatter, chatter. We came looking for you, Michael. Well, here I am. And they fall down. But then I reach down and help them up. Trying to work out a deal with them. That's the whole key. Stick with the presence of God. The words I speak are spirit and life because I have felt the presence. I felt the spirit of the presence of the consciousness of God. And that does the work. The words I speak, they are spirit and they are life. Therefore, when God says, let there be, he ain't got to say it again. He already said it and it's already done. Now I want to read you something that it really, really touched my soul. And I was reading it in Living Between Two Worlds by Joel Goldsmith. And it says, Easter, a rising out of material sense. That's the chapter that I'm reading out of. And you guys are going to love this. A material sense of spiritual creation has led to a material sense of supply. And because of that, prayers are uttered to God asking for food, clothing, housing, and supply. Whereas the principle is that the earth is full of the glory of God, whether it appears as vegetables, fruits, fish, birds, or whatnot. If instead of thinking that the abundance has to be divided, we realize, son, thou art ever with me and all that I have is thine. Then, rather than looking at the possessions of others and desiring them, we would be living in an awareness that through our consciousness, we have access to infinity. This infinity will pour into our consciousness spiritually, take form in our mind mentally, and then appear externally in what is called material form. A human being is living in a purely material sense of world, but he is not living in a material world because there is none. There is no such thing. All that exists is spirit and spirit's creation, about which the human race entertains a materialistic concept. This is the experience of the prodigal who wandered away from the Father's house where everything was his by divine right. He wandered out into a world of limitation where he believed he could create an empire of his own. For a time, such empires, I really want you to pay attention to this, because this is what we're going through right now in this country. For a time, such empires flourish. National empires and family empires, but none of them has ever been permanent. If any of them had been permanent by now, the descendants of powerful and ruthless rulers of the past would probably own all the world. In modern times, the families of some of our financial and industrial giants who have built commercial empires would eventually own and control whole nations. But all accumulations of material resources and power always break because there is something inherent in the situation which brings that about. Emerson explained it in this way: the dice of God are always loaded. And when the overbearing get too overbearing, the empire cracks beneath them. Now just think about what we got going on now. All this going on. It looks like certain people are just running rampant. They're creating empires, destroying services that have been given. Because Jesus said, you'll always have the poor with you. That's what he told Judas. Why? Because there's always going to be somebody out here who believes in poverty, and somebody out here who believes in limitation, lack, not having enough. There's always going to be somebody like that. But at the end of the day, those who are trying to control and build empires and run the world, they're a couple of steps away from too overbearing, and the foundation which is under them is going to crack because it's built on wood, hay, and stubble. It's going to fall. But the house that's built on the rock, the Christ, the understanding of the presence of God, an ability to accept, embrace the grace of God, and let that Spirit live through them, as them, they will prevail. And your name will be etched in stone forever. Somebody will come behind and follow your teaching. Like I'm following a Joel Goldsmith teaching. I'm following a Lillian DeWaters teaching. People will say, who is that? What have you? But somebody knows because their books keep selling. We are now in 2025. Joel Goldsmith made his transition somewhere around 1963, 1964. Are people around the world talking about Joel Goldsmith? Yes. All over the world. Are people talking about Charles Fillmore? Yes. All over the world. You cannot stop it because what God does is done forever. But there aren't too many people talking about some of the people who sang, wrote songs and what have you, and, who got taken advantage of by these entertainment industries, or some of the people who have, they've gone on, and actually, it takes a whole lot. It takes a whole lot to even think about who created the first car. Transportation. But that was God in the mind of a man, but then somebody else tried to take advantage of it, and we're going to do this, and then what happened next? Competition. That's not what we want to be known for. We want to be known for we walk in the presence of God. The last point that I want to make is in Genesis 1, the first thing that God met with was, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was void and without form, and darkness was on the face of the deep. They explain that as chaos. Chaos. When Jesus came to John the Baptist to be baptized, John said, you should be baptized in me. Why? He recognized the presence of God. And Jesus said, no, suffer it to be so. Jesus said, come on, let's do this so that all of righteousness would be fulfilled. And so John baptized him. Here comes the dove. See, when he went down in that water, that was the seed falling into the ground and dying. And when John raised him up, the dove rested on him. That's Jonah all over again. Conviction. Because Jonah means a dove, peace. Now I'm gonna pause for about 10 seconds right here. I'm going to ask you, where do you think the Spirit led Jesus right after his baptism? Okay, that's about 10 seconds. Most people don't want to go where Jesus was led after his baptism. He was led into the desert, the wilderness, to be tempted of the devil. Oh, you talking about that guy with the red suit with the horns on his head? No, I'm talking about the thoughts that were running around on the inside of his head, because that's the only thing that ever tempts you, your thoughts. So the thoughts do what? They take him up on a high, on the pinnacle. Throw yourself off, because the angels have been given charge to bear you up. God's given you that. Throw yourself, prove that you're the Son of God. Oh, it's not right to tempt God. I'm not going to do that. Who are you looking for? I'm looking for Jesus. I am he. Boom. Okay, well, if you be the Son of God, you've been out there fasting for 40 days. If you the Son of God, turn these rocks into bread. I know you're hungry. And then y'all ever sat around. Yesterday I came home after I was jogging, and I said, and I fooled around or what have you. Somewhere in the vicinity, because I had been up since like 9 o'clock. I had gone jogging. I had done my thing. Somewhere around 1, 2 o'clock, I was like, whoa, I didn't have anything to eat. I'm hungry. That thought popped in his head. I am hungry. I need something to eat. Well, if you're the Son of God, make an affirmation. Turn the rock into bread. Oh no, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of the Father. How do you know that, man? Well, I've been meditating. I was out there for 40 days. I felt the presence of God. I feel it swirling around on the inside of me now. Okay. Well, here is last but not least. If you know what? If you fall down and worship me, I will give you the kingdoms of this world. How am I supposed to fall down and worship you, man? I gave you you got a talent. You can play the piano. You can sing. People be swooning all about your voice. They tell you, recently I had somebody come to me and say, wow, man, like at your age, man, you still got that voice and you still this and you. And I said, look, y'all need to understand something. I opened my mouth and God, the Spirit, just sings through it. I know Michael Orr cannot go out here and woo no crowd, nor does he want to. I see some of those old acts nowadays, man. I'm looking out there. They got on, look here, guys out there older than I am. I'm 76. There's guys out there 80 years old trying. Notice I said trying, not dancing. Trying to dance on a stage and entertain folk with pink suits on, red suits on, yellow suits on. And I'm saying to myself, oh my God, what are you doing? What are you thinking, man? Your time came and it went. No, yeah, okay. Some of them sitting on stools because they can't get up and move around. Some of them just crippling across the stage and, dipping down when they walk and they're struggling. Bow down and serve me and I give you the kingdoms of the world. I already know how it's going to end. Isn't that what Jesus said? He knew the end. He knew they were coming for him. And I'm trying to tell you that if I had followed that, they're going to come for me. Come on, man. They coming for you. Who wants to be led out into the wilderness? Keith Sweat said, nobody. Don't nobody want that. But guess what? When you're baptized and the dove lights on you and says, this is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased, you are going to be led into a wilderness to be tempted by your own thoughts. And Jesus said, man shall not live by bread alone. No, I shall worship only God. Who is God? The presence. Who is the presence? Spirit, peace, love, joy, faith, patience, meekness, kindness, goodness, temperance, which means self-control. Right now, God gives me the presence to control myself right now. At the end of the day, who are you looking for? Who are you looking for? And my answer is, they said, we're looking for Michael. Michael of Nazareth. Michael the Nazarene. Now the reason I say this is because the word Christian means Nazarene, a follower of Jesus. So you're looking for Michael, the follower of Jesus. Yup. Well, I am he. And I have this image in my head of all of my problems falling down on the ground. Y'all, guess what I ain't going to do from now on? I'm not going to extend them a hand and help them back up and try to figure out and work out what's with them. This is the day God made, and I rejoice, and I am glad in it. Whom seek ye? I am seeking the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and I am allowing all things to be added unto me by grace. That is the will of God, which is done from the foundation of the world. Amen. And so it is.